Well, we're going live on multiple networks here because we can. I'm going to be drawing a Dilbert comic right in front of you and answering your questions in some cases and talking about the new Dilbert desktop page-a-day calendar, now available only at the link at dilbert.com, or you could go directly to it at shopdilbert.online. So in a moment, I'm going to move my screen down here, and we're going to figure out how to make a comic out of nothing. And you're going to watch. Ooh, incoming message. Yikes, what? All right, turn off incoming messages during a live stream. That's good advice. All right, everybody. Seriously. I love you, but we need to silence that right now. So, like I said, we're going to draw a Dilbert comic right in front of you from nothing. As soon as I can make my phone shut up. All right, I've got all the locals people there on their own special thing. So people are getting their Dilbert calendars, the people who ordered early, the pre-sale people, but there's still plenty of time to get yours. Let me show it to you. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a page-a-day desktop calendar sits on your desk. But what's special about it, besides being made in the USA for the first time? What's special about it is, well, it's got the comics you're used to, the Dilbert Classic comics on the fronts. For the first time ever, it's also got comics on the back. And the ones on the back are the spicy ones called Dilbert Reborn, which are a little spicier than newspapers would have allowed, but they're only like PG-13, nothing too alarming. But it goes into topics that maybe you wouldn't want to have sitting on your desk if your boss saw it. So keep the classic side up, and then when nobody's looking, turn it over and look at the other side. So here's what we're going to do. Buying it right now. Well, that's what I want to hear. What we're going to do is we're going to create a Dilbert comic, and I'm going to first write it, and you're going to get a little lesson in humor writing. What I'm using is a little tablet. It's called a Move Ink, Movink. It has a little stylus, and it's just connected to my laptop. I'm just using Photoshop to draw, but before I draw, did I mention? No, I won't do that again. I need a topic. So what I need from you guys is what would be something that's Dilbert appropriate, but remember, it could be spicier now. But I'll tell you what things it can't be. So it can't be just something that's, a news story or a horrible thing. Nothing about bathroom humor, just because it's not what I do. And nothing about food. So it can't involve food in any way, or bathroom humor, or any ugly thing in the news. Now, DEI, I've covered a number of times, so that's a good one, but I've done it so many times, I don't know what else to say. Oh, what I could do, how about this? So we're just brainstorming now. And here's how you know if an idea is good enough to write a joke around. It has to be funny before you write it. So here's what I mean. I'm going to describe an idea in a moment that's based on your idea. So I'm just, brainstorming. So your idea made me think of a related idea. So the idea that I saw was to do a comic about DEI. And I rejected it. And I said, no, I've done a bunch of those, looking for something new. But then I realized that there's a new trend of people who have to close down their DEI departments. So that's new. So the idea that didn't work, the bad idea was to do yet another DEI comic. But the bad idea is the only pathway to the good idea, which is actually a really good idea. Now, to judge whether or not that's worthy of writing a comic about, you ask yourself, is it funny before you actually see the dialogue and the characters? Are you already amused by just the idea of having to wind down your DEI? I don't know if you are. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So the Sunday comic from most recent Sunday, Dilbert was calling in for some tech support or some help to some company. And Dilbert asked if he could talk to a competent person, because in today's world, everybody's incompetent. So he starts right off by saying, "Could I speak to a competent person?" And then he's told that there's only one, and that one person's on vacation. Now, that's automatically funny. So even without telling you the actual dialogue or which characters or the order of things, you automatically think, all right, that's funny. Trying to call a company and like begging to see if there's a competent person. Is there even one? Is there even one competent person there? Now, you might recognize this as what I would call the Larry David writing model for humor. Did you ever notice that if you watched Seinfeld, if you liked it, if you liked Seinfeld, you would think about it for weeks or years. You would think of episodes just over and over. And yet there are other shows. I can think of lots of shows where I saw basically every episode, but I can't remember one of them. Not one. I love Cheers. I'm not sure I remember any episode, but there are a whole bunch of Seinfeld things that I can completely remember, like Kramer getting the dresser that had the big drawers, and he rented them out to some Japanese business people, and they were sleeping in the drawers. Now, you don't need to know any of the blocking of the scene or any of the dialogue. If I simply remind you that Kramer had a chest of drawers and he was renting out the drawers to Japanese business people, and that he would take them out and show you there'd be a guy in there. Now that is flat out hilarious before you write it, right? And you'll remember it forever because it's just so creative. Now that's also an example of taking two things that are real and sort of putting them together. Dressers are real, and it's real that Japanese businessmen have these little cubicles they sleep in, in Japan. So it's just an exaggeration of, something real. Anyway, shrinkage. Everybody remembers shrinkage. So you don't need to know, any of the dialogue about shrinkage, right? So back to the writing. I said DEI I've already done too many times, at least in the Dilbert Reborn comic. Getting rid of DEI could be funny, but since it's not funny when I just describe it, we don't have something yet. Does that make sense? Does it make sense that if it's not funny before you write it, it's not going to get funny? It's got to be funny before you start. Otherwise, you can't get there. So that's like a really important tip. I don't know if anybody ever told you that one before. So it's tempting. It's tempting to think that if your joke has all the elements, all you really have to do is word it right. But no, it's got to be funny. So, how could we slightly tweak it so that getting rid of DEI is funny? Well, one of my characters that's in Dilbert Reborn, a newer character, is Dave the Engineer. Now, Dave the Engineer is black, and it was hard to come up with a set of characteristics for a black character that didn't make me look like a racist. It's one of the hardest things in the world, because the point of a comic is that all the characters are flawed. They have different flaws, which is what makes it funny, because they all got their own little flaw. But if Whitey McWhitepants creates a black character for a comic strip, and you give that character any flaw, it just doesn't work. It just looks like, oh, really? So why do you think that all black men collect unicorn figurines? And I'll be like, well, I don't. That it was just something I gave that one character. Oh, really? Well, it doesn't feel like that's what you meant. So instead, the way I Kobayashi Maru'd it, sort of cheated, is I gave Dave a personality characteristic that you could think of as negative, but it's funny, which is that he's a prankster. But he really takes the pranks far. So you wouldn't actually want to work with somebody like him because the pranks go too far. But there's no real world person who kind of fits the, too many pranks guy. And when you make him black, he can do all kinds of pranks about potentially being offended by things that he doesn't really give a shit about. So he has the ability to make all of his coworkers feel awkward and not know what to do next. And that's his prank, basically. So now the question is, can you take the prank guy, and then can you add that to getting rid of DEI? Now, doesn't that automatically make it funnier? Again, before it's written, that you just introduce the prank guy, and if the boss is trying to figure out, are we really getting rid of DEI? Is it a good idea or a bad idea? Is this a prank? So most of the fun of that character is the other characters not knowing they're getting pranked. Dave puts on a white face because it's the only way to get a promotion. That's funny. X had no sound. That sounds like maybe a you problem, because the microphone is just going into the Rumble studio. So if any of you can hear me, then all the platforms should hear me. Well, okay, I'm seeing a good question. Would they fire the DEI department all at once, or would they distribute them to the other departments? Okay, I got it. All right, how about this? They decide to disband the DEI department just to be trendy because everybody's doing it. And they're going to distribute the employees to the other groups because they don't want to lay them off. So every group has to get a worthless DEI employee. All right, now, and then Dilbert's group will be trying to protest that they don't want a DEI employee. But then it's going to seem like it's about race. It shouldn't be about race. It should be about who would have a job in the DEI department. So they could be, the DEI department could be white. Oh, it's going to be a white woman. So it'll be a white woman who's the who's been assigned to them from the DEI department. And maybe Dave, the engineer, will be the one who gives her a hard time. Does that sound like something we could work with? All right, so if you think you have an idea, and we think we do, then we start writing it before we start drawing it. There was a time when I used to write it and draw it at the same time, meaning that I would draw a scene and then write for it, or vice versa. And then I'd go to the next one and draw it and write it. But these days, there's no special reason for it. I tend to write it all and then draw it later. So here's a setup. When I'm doing the lettering, I'm trying to make everything work here. When I'm doing the lettering, as I like to call it in the cartoon world, I'm using a font that is just my own handwriting. So it's a Dilbert font. Unique to me. So this is just Photoshop software, and I just have a template that's a blank, and I just change the dates and stuff on it. So starting with the blank, if we're working with that idea that the DEI department is being eliminated, then the idea has to be introduced. So the first panel is always the introduction of the concept. All right. So there would be a boss who would introduce it. So the boss would say, we're getting rid of our DEI department because, let's see, getting rid of our DEI department, but wherever possible, you don't want to, make somebody wait until the last panel to get their laugh. So if it's at all possible, you want each panel to have at least a little bit of something, just a little bit of something. You want the best thing to be toward the end, but the very first panel, if you could do it, you want to get people in the mood. So there should be a little something in the first panel. So it's got to be more than we're getting rid of our DEI department. It should be we're getting rid of our DEI department because why? because it's trendy. I don't want to make it political, nothing like because Trump won or something. Right. How about avoid being, how about we're getting rid of our DEI department to avoid being mocked? Okay, that is too clever. So when your hobby is persuasion, but your job is writing, it's hard to keep the persuasion out of the writing. We're getting rid of our DEI department to avoid being mocked. What do you think of that? Now, I know you can't read it. I'm just showing you the tools. All right. So, of course, obviously, everything can be written and rewritten. To ease the blow, no. If I put blow in there, everybody's going to think something sexual. By the way, that's one of the writing tricks, is if you put something in a sentence that could be construed by some horn dog as possibly sexual, they will stop to think about the possibly sexual thing. And then the timing of your joke will be destroyed because they stopped and thought of a sexual thing. So even if you use the word blow as in blow up a balloon, because ordinary males. Is it possible for us to see that word without thinking of the one we like better? You just don't use it. So if you can write around those words, do it. Now, conversely, if that word helps your timing, because it gives you a little break from something that maybe was a little boring or something, that could end up being a positive. But you think of it as a timing mechanism. Does it help or hurt your timing? All right, so the first panel is we're getting rid of our DI department to avoid being mocked for having one. Being mocked for having one. All right. And what do they call it when they, what's the corporate word when you don't fire people, you make jobs available within the company? What's the jargon for that? So I'll look for that in the comments. There's a jargon for that, right? It's called redeployment, reassign, restructure, reorg, transfer, downsize, reconfigure, reassign, reallocate maybe. Reallocate. Restructuring, reconfigure. How about just allocate? Reallocate seems like it's redundant. Horizontal promotion, a lateral, repurpose. We're going to repurpose. That's it. We're repurposing the DEI staff to various departments. We're repurposing the DEI staff to various departments. Then I might introduce we got stuck with Beth. Why is Beth funny? We got stuck with Beth. And Beth will be sitting there, of course. Yeah. I want to see if you agree with me. Do you agree with me that the name Beth is funny in this context? We got stuck with Beth. So here's another writing tip for writing humor. Humor only works if you can feel it when you're writing it. So it can't be just a mental thing. So it's not about what you're thinking. It's about how it feels. And as soon as you think we got stuck with Beth, there's something that just feels right about it. Now, those of you who immediately wrote Karen, which quite a few of you did, that's the exact thing it should not be and should not be mentioned, because that's the most obvious thing you say in this situation when somebody's trying to come up with the name of a female character. How about Karen? Have you thought of that? So a tip for NPCs, so that you did not be identified as one. Don't ever say the most obvious thing for that situation. Did I lose weight? No, I put on a sweatshirt so my head looks smaller. Actually, my weight is my ideal weight. As soon as I started eating healthy, I just made a bigger deal about eating healthy. It's just impossible to gain weight. I can eat all day long and I can't gain weight. So it's sort of like going back to the 50s when people ate all day long and they didn't gain weight. All right. So we're repurposing the DEI staff to various departments. We got stuck with Beth. All right. So at least I make him laugh by the third panel. And then I'll have one of them say, "Not Beth." It'll have to be somebody like Alice. Beth isn't even an engineer. Alice will have to say that because she is an engineer. See how much wokeness I have to work into this? Even without any wokeness, there's always a little bit. So I can't have the Dilbert gang insult a character named Beth for not being an engineer, unless it's Alice, who is an engineer, who's doing it. All right. So we're getting rid of our DI department to avoid being mocked for having one. So I might go back and rewrite that, but it's a good placeholder for now. Getting rid of it to avoid being mocked for having one. Do I need to say for having one? If I were paid $100 a piece for each of those 3 words, so I could make $300 for leaving those words out, would I do it? We're getting rid of our DI department to avoid being mocked. If I just say that, do you know what they're being mocked for? I kind of have to say mocked for having one. We're repurposing the DI staff to various departments. We got stuck with Beth. Not Beth. Beth isn't even an engineer. Beth made my life a living hell. So now, sort of in the middle of a Sunday comic, because there are multiple panels. When you sort of reach the bottom row, it's sort of like the second act of a movie where you can do the fun and games. So if you've found a vein of humor, you can just mine it for a few panels there. So Beth is sitting there and she's getting wildly insulted by the people who are talking about her instead of to her. So it's funnier if they're talking about her while she's right there. And Beth is the worst. And then I'll just make that all. Oh, damn it. So one of the problems is with Photoshop, they keep changing the interface. So one of the most basic things I do is make the lettering bold or italic. And I spent an hour or so looking so far, and I can't find out how you make anything bold or italic anymore. They just took away that option, or they moved it somewhere. Obviously, you can do it, but they moved it somewhere. So that's going to be like an hour's work to track that down. And of course, I Googled it, and of course, that didn't work. All right. So is there any other way to make that? Is there any other way? Doesn't look like it. Ooh, wait. No. Oh, hello. I found it. I could have used you last night, so to speak. All right. Then, now it would be too obvious if Beth in this comic just says, you know, I can hear you, or I'm right here. Beth will protest, I have skills. Like what? Now, here's another writing tip. If you can avoid it, don't have any of your characters asking questions. Because when you write dialogue, if you've never done it before, you start imagining that people are asking questions and people are answering them. But in the real world, people do ask questions, but people don't answer them. So if you're going to have questions, write it so that the person who asks them doesn't get the right answer or a useful answer, because that's like the real world. So if somebody even says what time it is in a comic, you make sure that that becomes a problem. I can artificially inseminate 1/7 of farm animals. Okay, I don't think I can work that in directly. I have skills. Like what? All right, now here's where you do sort of a callback to DEI. So you got to get back to that theme. Otherwise, there was no point in having it as a theme. Say, for example, I can turn you to men. Any one of 1,000 reasons. I have no objections. No. Beth will be great. All right, I don't know if this is funny or not. I wish I knew. No, I can't say I wish I knew her pronouns. Well, no, you know what's funny? I don't get sick of doing it. You know, sometimes there are other things I want to be doing, but it's not an unpleasant activity. I can turn you into human resources. Sounds like a wizard. I can turn you into human resources. So I have to rewrite that one. Should we have the staff just say Beth would be great because she's threatened to turn them into? All right, I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to have Beth suddenly realize she's going to go, oh, wow. Okay, I'll tell you what it is in a second. And then one of them says, so I can actually decide later who's actually talking. All right. So I'll read you the panel. Save my work. I'll draw it. I'm going to draw it in a moment. So this is upside down to you, but you can see that I just typed in using a font of my own handwriting. A Dilbert Sunday comic. Now these are only available to people who subscribe on Locals or subscribe to see the comic only on X. So those are the only places you see it. Or if you wait a year, you'll see it on the backs of the next Dilbert calendar. So here's the first draft of the comic. So it's 8 panels, which it typically is for a Sunday. So the boss is going to tell the staff, to imagine they're at a table. We're getting rid of our DEI department to avoid being mocked for having one. We're repurposing the DEI staff to various departments. We got stuck with Beth, and we're going to see Beth sitting right next to the boss. And then the other employees, it doesn't matter which ones, say, not Beth. Beth isn't even an engineer. Beth is the worst. Then Beth will chime in, I have skills. And one of them says, like what? For example, I can turn you into human resources for any one of 1,000 reasons. And then Beth says in the final panel, oh, wow, I suddenly realized I'm worthless. And then one of the staff says, we've been trying to tell you. Is that too harsh? Oh, I suddenly realized I'm worthless. Now remember, I have to make it a white person. So it's going to be somebody from the DEI staff, but it'll be like a white woman. Does she drive a Jaguar? That's funny. Jaguar's in the news, and it's not harsh enough. All right. Do you want to see me draw it? Well, it doesn't matter if you do or not. So before I draw it, for those of you who are new, how many people are watching? All right, so we got 1,100 watching, not counting however many are on X. So the Dilbert calendar is back. It's the page a day calendar. And it's only available at the link you can find at dilbert.com. It's not going to be in stores, and it's not going to be on Amazon, because to make it in America, I had to do it a non-standard way. All right, so has the traditional comics on the front, but for the first time on the backs of every comic, so you're getting twice as many comics as ever before, are the new ones, the Dilbert Reborn, that only subscribers see, or people will buy the calendar and wait a year. So let's do this. I'm going to do the first draft of this comic for those of you who want to stick around and watch it. This little glove is so that my hand goes over the screen more smoothly. If it seems to you that I'm holding my pen in a non-standard way, you will be correct. But that's only because I've got a focal dystonia in my hand, which is very much like the spasmodic dysphonia that used to bother my voice, which is the same thing that RFK Jr. has with his voice. So it's a small world. All right. So I know you're not really going to be able to see this very much, but you get a sense for it. So I picked the layer. Everything is in its own layer. So every one of these statements is in its own layer, so you can edit them separately without messing up anything. All right. This got attached to that for some reason. Don't need that. So half of the job is just getting rid of stuff that's in your way. All right, now, because there's lots of people talking, I'm going to make a big table full of people. Wait, why didn't that work? Somehow that drew a line. 9 points. Oh, that's different. So once again, the change in the interface of the Photoshop software has rendered it impossible for me to figure out how to do the thing that I literally do every day. Let me try it again. Is it me? No, problem solved. All right. So, the boss. So sometimes I start with the heads just to make sure that they're lined up where I want them to be. And then let's see. I know I want Alice. And I'm aware that it's difficult to see. It's just giving you a sense of it. All right. Actually, you can see it okay. It's not too bad, is it? You can sort of see. All right, then I'm going to look at this for spacing. So this word bubble is annoyingly the wrong shape. So I'm going to change its shape by changing what words are on what line, which will require hyphen. And this will buy me a little more room, but not much. Right. Oh, looks like it fits better that way. Well, it turns out that if you don't draw from something like scratch every time, it's just death for creativity, and you don't want to be here. So if a robot were doing it, that's what it would do. All right, so this has got to be Beth. So Beth has to look like somebody who used to work in DEI. But recently got repurposed, reassigned. I think Beth will have a basic haircut. All right. That's Beth. And let's see. But Beth's head is too small compared to the boss, so we got to upscale her a little bit. Then everybody wears the same clothes in this office, men and women. I have to give Beth some indication of breastolas. All right. Then we could put in the other characters. And then get rid of this business here. So this would be Wally's head. Then maybe we'll put in Ashok. Ashok the intern. Give him some stubble. All right. Then we'll give the boss a face. Everybody hanging in there? You know, part of this is so you can interact with each other in the comments, in case you were lonely. See, now I'm like a coworker for you. A coworker who will not turn you into HR. All right. You're probably wondering if the sound is working. Yeah, become HR so nobody can turn you into HR. I'll bet that doesn't work, but worth a shot. All right. So the boss is going to have his arms on this table, so we'll get rid of that. Everybody doing good? You're wearing a cocktail dress still, okay? Yes, the assistant does tidy up the comic. Well, by the way, what you're seeing is rarely ever been done in public. See if you can get a comedian or any other kind of writer to write a joke in public. All right. There's the boss. The boss is talking. My assistant, my art director will, I should say my art director, not my assistant. Alice is skeptical, so I give her skeptical eyes. All right, looking perfect. All right, so it's just going to be more of this, so probably you may have seen enough. I'll just give you an idea what's going on here. So this is the Move Ink tablet using Photoshop, connected by thin cable. So that's what the first panel looks like. Is this working for you? Let me do a temperature check here. 1,200 people watching. Do you want to see me finish the drawing? It's a little tedious. I can't talk too much while I'm drawing. Would you like to hang out some more and talk to each other while I draw? I will show you some of my process. Well, I kind of want to hang out with you. So if you don't mind, I'll keep going. Because if you weren't here, it'd be more boring for me, and I'm going to do it anyway. So if you don't mind, I'll just crash through this. You can see how long it takes me to draw Sunday comic. So one of these, I'll do a building exterior, which is easy. Then one of these, I do an angled view so it collapses the characters, meaning that you don't have to see the characters on the other side, so it's a different angle. But, all right, let's see if you can see it. So it's the same characters, but from a different angle. All right, well, we're just blocking it out. So if it's in the ballpark, it's good. Mm-hmm. All right. Then, Beth. Anybody have any questions? Yikes. Nipple back. Yeah, it's a special half glove. It actually comes with the drawing tablet, so that when your hand is on it, it doesn't put your hand oils on the screen. Work music into it. Maybe AI music. All right, well, we shall continue. So Beth has a small nose, a worried brow, and big ears. And her hair is too tall. That's what we remember about her. All right. How many of you think I'm a slow drawer? Gotta give her a key. Gates hair. Yeah, it might be. Might be influenced by that. All right. So, so gotta make sure that the boss's face matches his dialogue. Okay, close enough. All right. Mm-hmm. Do you ever wonder if things are different in science lately? Because the pandemic went so poorly. Yeah, that was a random thought. All right. All right. How many of you were sticking with me? If I don't talk, I think people disappear. 1,000 people. What are you doing not asking? What about science? COVID made your doctor retire. Oh, quesadillas. Now you made me hungry. I'm so hungry now. All right, we got to finish Alice because she looks like a ghost. Drawing on a computer is a lot like clay. You don't have to get it right on the first try. All right, we'll have Alice giving him some side eye. And she will just have a little expression. More of a side eye. As in, where are you heading with this? All right. That is two panels. Now, the good news is those are two generic panels. Not much to listen to. It's more of a visual thing. Do you forget about time and worries? Well, I usually would have some TV entertainment on. So if there's a good show on, I'm in good shape. All right. Copy that. Move it here. So So we got stuck with Beth. Okay. All right, that works. So I'm reusing the base art from the first panel, which is a common thing I do. But their positions will be a little different, so I have to go tweak them. All right. Beth will now be looking at him in horror. And the boss will be motioning to her. Mm-hmm. Oh, stupid. So I don't know if I told you that I have been having a problem of falling asleep during the day, the afternoons mostly. And I have been right on the edge of losing consciousness about 4 times since we started. And a couple times I think I zoned out completely, but my hand was still moving. Something's making me tired lately. I didn't get much sleep last night. All right. But I'm unstoppable. Well, you can see them when I blow them up like this. How impressed you must be that I can draw upside down. Do you? I like having the boss announce, basically bad news with a smile. All right, this does look kind of funny. Let's check it out. We got stuck with Beth. And to me, that's the funniest part. We got stuck with Beth. All right. There are 2 things that are unavoidable: Beth and taxes. Beth and Texas. We can make a joke out of that. All right, so Alice is watching. Where shall the objectors be? All right. So a lot of this is just trying to find the solution that takes the least amount of work. I may have painted myself in a corner here. So I have Alice saying this, but then somebody's got to be saying, not Beth. How to solve this? Come on. Well, maybe I'll have to rewrite this. So it'll be one thing instead of two. Instead of two people talking, it'll be one, but it'll be Alice. Then we'll get rid of this one. All right. It's working perfectly. How many of you are still hanging in here? Still 1,000. All right. Just looking at your... Yeah, so I'll have Alice doing more than side-eye. She's going to get aggressive, as she does. Huh. All right. And Alice will be yelling. She needs to be more serious looking. All right, so then I'll have the boss recognizing that she's talking. All right. So the boss will have a closed little mouth. Then I'm going to have Beth turn her face toward her accuser. Could do this. Maybe. All right. It's all downhill from here. All right, that's all I can handle for now. I would finish this, But I'm going to need some coffee and some dinner and a break. Maybe a little exercise. Who plays the drums? That's me. I'll drum you out. Thanks for joining. You don't have to stay for this part. It will be painful. I don't play the drums so much as I torture them. And that's what we do in Man Cave sometimes. Usually I just use the drums to start the Man Cave shows when it's just the local subscribers. Try to write your name upside down. I need to do this. They're doing what? They're putting the vaccine in your food right now. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Putting it in my food. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. It's been fun. We'll do it again. Bye for now.